Welcome to No More Mondays, the podcast that helps you navigate career challenges through the wisdom of professionals who have been at the same crossroads. I'm your host, Angie Callen, and I welcome you to join me each week as I chat with leaders, entrepreneurs, and employees who are here to share practical, tactical advice and some inspiration on how they arrived at career satisfaction. From job searching and career changes to going out on your own, we're breaking down barriers and providing actionable takeaways to help you take charge of your Mondays and ditch the Sunday blues. Welcome to the No More Mondays movement. Hello, everybody, and welcome to No More Mondays. I am your host, Angie Callen. When was the last time you took a leap of faith? You threw caution to the wind and actually did something you know you wanted or needed to do despite the laundry list of reasons not to do it. If something inside you just stirred, be prepared to wake it up as we welcome Jenna Banks to the show. Jenna's big leap of faith came when she left a corporate job where she was interfacing with huge companies like Hasbro, Mattel, and Lego to go out on her own with $400 a GED and a laptop. So how's that for some inspiration that you don't need a giant investment to be successful, because she also went on to sell that business for a 1,000x plus return on investment. Now you're paying attention, aren't you? Jenna is now channeling all of her experience and successes into her work as a female empowerment coach, speaker, author, and just all-around amazing human who I am very excited for you to learn from today, because she's found her flow and she's going to help you do the same. So here to inspire all of you to fulfill your purpose and find your passion, help me welcome to the show, Jenna Banks. Jenna, welcome to No More Mondays.
Thank you for such a warm welcome. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. You have some, I want to get into your backstory first, and then we'll talk about some of the cool stuff you're doing, because, you know, I have to tell you a little tidbit. So a side note for everybody out there, Jen and I actually got to connect a few weeks ago and chat, and we just found out we have so many kind of different perspectives and approaches in common when it comes to kind of this world of purpose and fulfillment that I was excited to have you here today for that. And then when I was working on writing up your intro earlier, I was like, oh, we have similar founding stories, because the shoestring, bootstrap, don't have any money in the bank kind of startup story is also what Career Benders looked like 5 years ago when it started. So there are now two of us to prove that you don't have to have investors and hundreds of thousands of dollars to be successful. So tell us your story. Walk us through kind of how you got to that success, and then also bring us up to speed on what you're doing today.
Right. Well, thank you for asking. So I left I had a cushy corporate job at the time, but I had been there for quite a while and was just feeling purposeless, unfulfilled. In the beginning, the first couple of years, it was a challenge. I love a good challenge. But once my job was rolling along very smoothly, I just wasn't challenged anymore. So I lost that spark that I once had. And I could have stayed there, honestly, and retired there very, very well off. Great retirement plan, great benefits, all that. But that wasn't doing it for me. It wasn't making me want to get out of bed and be happy to go to work. And so I just can't. I did that for a while. And at some point I just said, this is enough. I can't do this anymore. And there were some other circumstances that happened. But I said, you know what? I'm just going to take this risk, quit my job. And I'll tell you, anyone sitting there thinking that right now, where you're like, I've got a nice job. It pays well, has good benefits, but I'm just not fulfilled. It's too scary to think of quitting. What will my family say? What will, yada, yada, yada. There's always going to be something that comes up that will get in your way, always. And that it's no different for me. I'm sure it's no different for you, right, Angie, when you decided to start your business?
Oh, absolutely. And there is, you hit the nail on the head with that. That goes back to that laundry list. There is always a list of reasons not to do it. And many of them, most of them, almost all of them, I would even say, are external factors that aren't about you and your motivators and your goal. And you owe it to yourself to really, I think, be authentic to that.
Absolutely. And so I quit that job without even knowing what I was going to do. And so I sat there with it for a few weeks, and I was so uncomfortable. So again, I say this so that anyone who decides to go down that path can go, okay, this is normal. It's perfectly normal. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just started going, okay, what did I love doing in the past? When was I my happiest at my job? And let's just kind of go backwards from there and figure out how to make that as my next career. And so I said, okay, I do like doing being an entrepreneur. I like that old business I had been in. It was called promotional merchandise, marketing products. And so I remember being passionate about that when I was working for somebody else. And I thought, all right, why don't I try my hand with what I've learned at my current job and my past jobs and knowing what I'm passionate about. Let's just try it. And that's why I started with only $400, a laptop and a GED, was because it was low risk. The only risk was my time. And I think this is also something really important to keep in mind is that, a lot of people have an aversion about dipping into savings to go on to what's next, right? We think, okay, we have to have something lined up. Then you quit your job and you go immediately to what's next and you don't go through savings. Every single time I made a career shift, almost every single time, I went through some savings along the way, took a breather moment of a month to 3-4 months to take that time to really make sure I was getting into something I would be passionate about. And I think that that's key too. If we're just doing it for the money, we're never going to be fulfilled. And so that's why every time I made a leap, I was doing something I was passionate about.
There was a couple hot buttons there. And I think that the biggest one is money is rarely a good basis for making decisions. Yes, we need it. Yes, it supports us. However, if that is all you're worried about or you prioritize it, your decisions will reflect that. And I think that there's only a certain level of satisfaction and happiness you get to. And of course, I want to respect the fact that we all have a different basis of needs, right? So and we all have different risk tolerances and different abilities. So like Jenna and I aren't telling everybody out there to go quit your jobs and figure out what to do next. However, it can be the right decision in situations where you're able to make it work. Maybe you do have some padding and you dip into a little bit of it, but you don't burn through all of it.
Of course.
There are ways to make it work if you are willing. And I was reading a really good book. I'm a big Marie Forleo fan, Jenna. I bet. Yeah, I had a feeling you are too. And she has a new book called Everything's Figure Outable, which I think is a fantastic statement. But at the root of it, the book is all about, we say so often, I can't. Mm-hmm. And it isn't about I can or I can't. It's I will or I won't.
Oh, yes. I love that. Yeah.
So in your situation, you could have stayed at your job and told yourself, I can't leave this cushy job and this retirement and been caught up in golden handcuffs. However, you were willing, and you did a thing and it ended up everything kind of ends up working out. And yeah, it's uncomfortable for a little while. That was the other thing that you said. And all of that led to what you're doing now. And I want to get more into that.
Yeah.
But in kind of going back through the kind of high level overview of this story, there's a couple points that I think are important. One, you don't have to go a high cost, high overhead startup. 2, prove the concept. So before you go all in, spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on trainings and systems and all of this stuff, prove the concept. And also this idea of like stepping it. Right. So it was like, I can start because this is what I liked from my other job. I can do this. I can offer it to people. Then I can add something on and then I can add something on to that. And I also think that in the bigger picture, that's almost how this career trajectory has gone for you. So it was kind of like, I'm not quite fulfilled in this corporate world. It's not where I want to be. I'm going to take a step. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to take all the steps right off the bat, but one led to another and got you where you're at today, which is really your sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it's weird. Now, what I'm doing today has nothing to do with what I was doing before, like pretty much nothing to do. Maybe some of the web skills I learned transfer over, and maybe some of the content creation skills, but SEO, but that's about it. I mean, so what happened was I sold my company for $500,000. Now that was cash in my pocket that I had no idea I'd get. So I kind of had that to fall back on for some income as well. So that allowed me to kind of dip my toe into the water, start doing public speaking, wrote a book during the pandemic, put out a show. And now I have my own channel on like Roku and Binge Networks TV and who knows where that's going to go. So yeah, it's definitely, been a ride of putting one foot in front of the other, taking it step by step and seeing what happens because you You just never know.
I got to put Coach Angie hat on for a second, because you said something a few minutes ago that I want to make sure for you give your own pat on the back, because the business that you have now, in my opinion, has everything to do with where you came from, not nothing. You know how you're like, maybe it's some content, maybe it's some web. That all of that built the foundation, right? And it might not seem from a subject matter perspective relevant. However, I don't think you would have had the confidence to overcome public speaking. You wouldn't have had the financial foundation to really now go at this with investment to do it. And also all of the perspective that you gained through being unsatisfied and being scrappy and having a bootstrap startup helped you understand imposter syndrome and write a book called I Love Me More, right? So all of that, in my opinion, informed how you got to the point you are today. And the reason I wanted to make sure you give yourself credit for that, but also I talk to a lot of people who say like, oh, I'd love to coach or I'd love to do something in that world, but what do I have to offer? In my opinion, great coaching comes from your real world experience and perspectives that you've gained through it. And all you have to do is be a half step ahead of the people that you want to help and know that you have an understanding and empathy and a perspective that will guide them through something that you've pained through. And that's why what you're doing now is related to where you've been, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that, Coach Angie. Yeah, you're right.
There you go.
And I would give the same advice to anyone writing a book, because I felt that imposter syndrome when I went to write. In fact, I almost didn't put pen to paper, because as I started to do research, I started letting the doubts seep in, like, oh, who am I to write a book, right? There's so many writers that are so much better than me. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't even go to college, like, all this stuff. So like, of course I could have stopped myself, but nobody's you. No one's me. I have my own unique perspective. You have your own unique perspective. We need to hear as many perspectives as we can, because who knows who's going to connect with your story, your perspective, your journey. So yeah, I love that.
That's a hugely important message just in general, because in the world of business, there are very few original ideas left. And so many people say, and I challenge you to go prove me wrong, by the way, go find a new idea. However, in general, like, I'm not the first career coach in the world. However, I have my own background and my knowledge, my experience and my perspective, and it resonates with the people that it's going to resonate with. And it doesn't resonate with a whole lot of people, because I ain't everybody's flavor. And that's okay, because even if you're doing something in a space that has competition is A, healthy. It B, tells you that there is a market for the thing that you want to do, but you're going to do it in your own way. And if you have a clear perspective on that and target the people who are going to resonate, it will work.
Yeah, very true. So I get to do what I love. And I have to say, you're absolutely right. Thinking back to all the steps that I took to get to where I am today, they all kind of piggybacked on each other, because I learned that pursuing my passion, pursuing what I was, felt was my purpose at the time, is always fulfilling. And so I just never question it. And so get to the point where I am today. Every single day, every single morning I start my work, I am so happy to be doing what I'm doing and so passionate about it. And it makes everything worthwhile, right? If every single day you could be passionate about what you do, and you do it without the money. And trust me, I've been doing it without the money for a long time. And that's okay. If you do it without getting paid, that's how you truly know that you're passionate about it. And then, of course, you need to get paid for it. But if you could do it without getting paid, that's when you know you're really on target there.
And it's another proof of concept for you, I think,
true.
As well.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Jenna and I realized when we first chatted with each other is that we have a shared perspective when it comes to the practicality of a lot of what we're talking about. Because when you think about, I'm going to find my purpose, I'm going to find my passion, it can trend. I'm going to say the word, Jenna. I have to say it because she and I both call this, it can trend the little woo-woo. And woo-woo has a place in the world. It totally does. However, I think you and I kind of share that idea of like practicality and action to support kind of carrying out your purpose and your passion. So what do you think in your journey was the key to you really finding yours from a practical perspective?
I have this very simple approach to life. Do what makes you happy. That's it. Like, you do what makes you happy, you have a happy life. And so if you say, well, am I happy at this job? No. Quit. I mean, there's nothing that needs to hold you there. I mean, if you let money hold you there, that is the key to not being happy. So just pursue your happiness. I mean, that was my practical approach it is my practical approach to life. It always has been. I have a very rough background. I had a very traumatic childhood. And I left home at the age of 14 because I was so unhappy. And I was willing to take the risk and see what was on the other side of that by leaving. And it was tough. It was really hard. But I'm glad I did, because it started a lifelong fire within me to never not be happy, not allow it. We have the key to happiness within us, and it's not money. For me, it's pursuing, the things that challenge me and that light me up, that fulfill my purpose. So it took a while to figure that out, but it never led me wrong. Never. So if okay, if I pursue my happiness and it doesn't lead me wrong, you just keep doing that. And so that's what I did, was I just kept following that.
This has come up on the show before, particularly overlapping the conversation of imposter syndrome, which is just a really interesting realization I just made. We are really good at overthinking things and not following kind of the gut or our intuition that actually is scientifically proven to control a lot more of our neuro than our brain does. And so that idea of like, I'm not happy, we overthink, I'm not happy, I have to be unhappy.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. Who wrote a book on this that's really easy to understand? I think it was Malcolm Gladwell. Blink. Was it Blink? Mm-hmm. Yeah, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. I love the way he writes. He does it in a very non-woo-woo, very practical sense. By the way, I love the woo, but the way I process things is very practical. And so
exactly, same.
Yeah. So I think that the way he writes about it, it's just like this, we survived. We got to this point somehow without, having certain amounts of information. There's a ton of information in our bodies, and we can't explain it. And because our mind can't actually process that, we don't want to give it validity. We don't want to give it the preference in our decision making. I actually learned how to put a preference on my intuition. And there was an aha moment that I had around that one day. And I forget what it was, but it was a very strong pull, a very strong intuition I had. And I went against it. And I made the wrong decision. And I thought, okay, from now on, I'm going to trust it and just see. If it doesn't lead me in the right direction, then I'll, say, okay, that's not always right. It's never led me wrong. Never led me wrong. So yeah, I like that you put that together. Intuition is huge.
And I love that a lot of this also becomes hindsight. And as you learn from your hindsight, you can you iterate it and perfect it. Because I can also tell you that I can pinpoint very specific things that if I go back in hindsight, I could say, I remember a specific moment where my intuition went, I don't know if you should go through with this.
Yeah.
But my brain and my amount of time I had committed to it and everything like that was so far gone that I allowed myself to overthink it. And I think what's interesting today, I was having a dinner conversation a couple nights ago with some friends where we were talking about, this goes back to that idea of being uncomfortable is kind of how I'm going to bring this all full circle. But
love it.
We're having this conversation about the fact that we live in this information age, and it's almost too accessible to the point that it perpetuates analysis paralysis, because we want black and white answers to everything all the time because we're used to being able to get them. Versus when we were kids, you either had to ask somebody you trust and trust their answer, or look it up in an encyclopedia, or just not know.
Right. So true.
and the thing is, it's almost like it's okay to not know and to try something and live in a little bit of a gray area and see where it takes you.
That's so true. I love that you brought that up. I'm really big on not knowing. Jumping into the unknown is a beautiful thing, but it's something that most of us are averse to. Yeah. But that is where all possibilities lie, right? Who wants to know everything? I don't want to know. That's why business is amazing to me, being in business for yourself. You get to jump into the unknown almost every single day. You don't know what's around the corner, but it's beautiful because that's where all possibilities lie.
We've all seen that meme, progress doesn't happen inside the comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So let's, as people who like practical actions, what advice do you have for somebody out there who maybe is stuck in the comfort zone? Their intuition's telling them to step out. They know they're unhappy, feel like they have to be, just unfulfilled because that's the way we like to live in America. Like, what is a practical step or two they can take to just begin inching themselves forward or exploring or just doing something?
Well, this isn't practical, but what I would say to that is you need a bit of chaos, unfortunately. It truly, though, out of chaos comes a new order. And sometimes you just need to stop that train, get off of it, go into that unknown, that blank slate of space where you're like, oh my God, there's no order. I have no clue what my day is going to be like. I don't know what's around the corner. Am I going to survive? Oh my God, what did I do? That's a beautiful place to be. It may sound unpractical, but it's actually super practical because out of chaos comes that new order. And you get to pick out of anything you want where you're going to put your focus now. So that it's scary as hell. And it sounds unpractical, but I think it's the fastest way to get on a new path.
I think that's great advice. And it's more practical than you think because it requires action. Mm-hmm. Because just doing exactly what you're doing, being on the hamster wheel, stuck in the exact same routine, isn't going to perpetuate any amount of chaos. And it doesn't mean you have to uproot everything in your life and change everything all at once and put everything into chaos.
Yeah.
It could be one aspect of it that kind of pushes you into that space of having to be in like the space of ingenuity and figuring it out and finding the order within the chaos.
I'm going to give you a little tip that I learned later, much later, not actually maybe a handful of years ago, that helped me with that because I had jumped into the fire. And it is this. No matter what, think about this, is the practical brain. No matter what, you are going to be okay. You have always been okay. You've always had a roof over your head. You've always had food in your belly. Even if your bank account goes down to zero, you're still going to be okay. You still are healthy. You still have your mind. You still have your wits. You still have all these things. You can still make it. You're still going to be fine. And I think that that's the key is we let our fears and our insecurities get in the way and let us stop us from living fully, like just doing whatever the heck we want to do. We let fear stop us. And if you kind of just let your brain process the fact that no matter what, you will be okay. You'll survive. You're not going to starve. You're not going to be on the streets.
It's such a cliche. I still attest. You guys hear me say it all the time. Cliches are a thing for a reason. It always works out in the end. Yeah. And I think that we are, to just kind of reiterate a point that is a theme throughout this whole conversation, we are very apt to focus on what if I fail, but what if you succeed? Like we are so good at, oh, what if, but what if?
Yeah. What if? Exactly.
Right. And I didn't, 20 years ago when I was an engineering student, knowing that wasn't my career path, did I think that it was going to lead me to career coaching? No. But like you, it was like, I'm not in the place I want to be. So I'm going to take a step to be in a place I might want to be. Mm-hmm. And from there, you get to another place that you might want to be. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool. This is the place I want to be, which brings me to what you're doing now. So talk to me a little bit about, because you've got some cool stuff coming out. And let's do some shameless plugs, but also these are great resources to kind of back up from a do something perspective what we're talking about. So you've got a book, you've got the podcast, you've got a platform coming out. So talk to us about the resources you offer to support everything we're talking about here.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I really appreciate it. I like that you mentioned the platform, Powerful Women, for all your female ambitious go-getter women listening right now. Powerful Women is a platform where it's like, think of like Instagram, Facebook group, LinkedIn, networking, all of that in one place, specifically for career-oriented, ambitious women. So the idea is to help you go as far as possible in your career. Now, if you think about it, like myself going into management and corporate, I was always on an island back then. Now, granted, I've that was a while ago, and things are getting better and better, thankfully. But I still hear this time and time again. When you get to a certain level as a woman in management, let's say VP level, especially at those levels, director, VP, you tend to be on an island up there. And so, we as women, especially, look to other women for for information about what's possible for us, right? We don't look to men because men have lived a certain way for a certain amount of time. And as women, we're not saying, oh, that's me too. No, we look to another woman. So if we see a woman around us who's a peer, it's okay, we're educated at the same level, we're around the same age, and she's doing some crazy shit, you're like, wow, I could do that too. And suddenly it ups your level, right? And so that's what happens. It's an unconscious thing, but it happens. I've seen it happen all around me time and time again. The moment one of my friends does one thing, suddenly it's the thing for all of my friends. They're like, and suddenly they're all doing it. And it just ups the level of everyone around them. That's what I want powerful women to be for ambitious women. We're going places, but we want to just keep that challenge. We want to keep knowing, hey, what's the next level? And I see other women around me doing it, and let's talk about it, and having frank discussions about issues. And this is why it's for women specifically, frank issues about the things that we have to deal with as women in a patriarchal system. And how do you navigate that and come out on top? Right. And so there's those types of frank discussions, and that's why it's for women especially. But don't get me wrong. It's not, you don't have to be at a VP level to be in there. In fact, this is for current college, people in college all the way through, executive leadership and everyone in between, because again, we need to learn from each other. Right. So powerful women, and that's FULL, because it's powerful, FULL at the end. So powerfulwomen.com. And it's powerful because here's the deal when it comes to power. I am all about putting a spotlight on power for women. This is not what you might be thinking. This is not about bra burning. Hey, let's overpower men. Women are better than men. Well, no, it's not about that. It's about recognizing the unconscious social norms that play out in everyday behavior that disempower us, that we perpetuate, feeding into the system of disempowerment of women, and that also that we react to as well. So basically, there are things that we can do to power ourselves up. I talk about self-care and self-love. I talk about it in my book. I talk about it on the platform. And then there's things that drain us of our power as women specifically. And it's a part of being in this system that is a patriarchal system that is designed to keep us away from our power. And by the way, this could apply to men and women. We should all be in our power, right? We should all own our power. We should all own our value. We should all own our worth. Unfortunately, we have learned from our mothers and grandmothers and other women around us some disempowering social norms that just keep getting passed on. So if we really want to have true equality, if we really want to have, go as far as we can go as women equal to men, we need to understand about being in our power. That's all. It's not about having power over anyone else. So that is what I'm up to on the powerful women side of things.
I love that there's an aspect of mentorship there. I think in bringing together people and women that are of all of their career phases, because it's that, like, you bring up that idea of the inspiration that comes from seeing a woman who has broken down a barrier or, shattered a myth or, a social norm and gotten to a place that, we don't traditionally in society live or have gotten to in the past. And so that really does kind of perpetuate the idea of like, well, if Jenna did it, I can do it.
Exactly.
And I think a platform to be able to bring people together where they can do that, but in a very non-competitive way, because the unfortunate flip side of this is we're also oftentimes our own worst critics, but just can be not as supportive of each other as we should. So it's a very positive way to encourage, I think, this kind of overall growth from a community perspective.
100%. And thank you for bringing that up. That is one of the big objectives, is to help us work together, lift each other up, support each other, because it just, I see this time and time again, women tearing each other down, being jealous of each other. It's not the way we're going to grow and be more powerful. We need to be doing this together, and it's just a flip of the thinking. And so it's part of what I try to bring to the table in the community. And again, when you're aware of that and it's part of the mantra of the community, then you develop these new ways of behaving in the world and seeing the world differently, and see, oh, okay, I could go to my girl for this, I could go to my girl for that, she might know someone she could connect me with, whatever. And so we help each other out. And I'm all about helping out my competition too. Like, I've been like this, since I had my company. Like, I always saw my competition as my friends. We were always helping each other out. And sometimes we'd even work together. How cool is that?
It's way more fun to do this stuff together than it is to be your own little island trying to figure out how to squash everybody else. Because this goes back to that idea that, okay, yeah, you have competition, but you all have lanes that you play in. And so you can oftentimes complement each other more than you can end up competing with each other if you're open to it. There's a rabbit hole, but still, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about that. It's about bringing women together. Let's network together, get to know each other, share information. That's another key thing. One of us could have one experience and bring it to the table, say, wow, I just learned, like I went through this experience at work. I came out so on top because of this. And you share that with another woman, and we learn best through stories. And so you're assimilating all this great information through the stories that everyone else is sharing. So I'm just super excited about getting that off the ground. But also, it's, again, one step in front of the other. The next thing that came out of that was the Powerful Women Roundtable Talks, which resulted in having a channel. So now there's the Powerful Women Plus channel on Roku, launching in a few weeks. And
cool.
It's own freaking channel, which is pretty cool. I didn't even know that was possible.
Look at you. I didn't know that was possible either. Well, Jenna just gave me a new goal. Sorry, team. Now we're going to be looking into that.
Good.
And also, just so you know, Jenna is in like so many places because the book, the podcast, the Roku channel, and the platform, all four things, we're going to link on the show notes at nomoremondays.info. So it'll be an easy springboard for you to go and kind of check all of these out. And we've got a partnership when it comes to the platform. So if you're interested in diving into that, all of you ambitious women out there who I know are listening, every single one of you, we can get you into there to be part of that community too, which is awesome.
So excited. So excited. Yeah. So I think 2023 is going to be amazing.
Yeah. 2023 is the year of Jenna Banks, I think.
Jenna and Angie, let's we're
gonna take over the world.
Hopefully help a lot of other people do the same. I mean, ultimately, I think that's our common goal, right? It's just helping others. There's nothing more fulfilling in the end than fulfilling your purpose while helping others. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's everything.
That is a message that's come up that I hear a lot is if you can find a way to pair a passion and or a purpose with serving others, that is the magic. That's where the magic lives.
Yep.
So
that's it. And I want to do this the rest of my life. So, but yeah, Powerful Women Plus will be roundtable talks. It'll be my show, the Jenna Banks Show. And, who knows what else will come on that channel. I'm open to bringing on some other shows. So we'll see how that evolves. But yeah, I just hope to connect with some of your audience members. And I just love everything you're doing with your show, Angie. This focus on career, I think, is so important, and career or starting your business or whatever. I think that, even just one little nugget, if you could share that one little nugget that resonates with the right person at the right time, it could truly change the trajectory of their entire lives.
Well, an excellent segue, because as we wind things down, which makes me kind of sad because there's so many other things that I could just chat with you about for a while.
Absolutely.
The last thing I always ask is, what is your gold nugget? What is that pearl of wisdom, the number one piece of advice you have to help everybody out there get closer to a more satisfying kind of career and life?
Well, okay. So the one nugget I would say is to actually, if you haven't picked it up by now, this probably won't surprise you, which is, stay challenged and keep learning. That is the way to just keep the spice of life alive. A lot of people think that they want to strive to getting to a comfortable place, right? That place where I was, having a nice 6-figure income, cushy position, I could go in and pretty much keep my seat warm. All I had to do was keep the ball rolling and go to the meetings and whatever. But that wasn't challenging me anymore. and it wasn't inspiring me. So I say, don't be willing to trade off comfortableness for money. It's not worth it. Like, stay challenged and stay inspired. Keep learning. Sign up for a course. Ask for that promotion. Even do it scared, right? If you think I'm not qualified for that, go for it anyway. What have you got to lose? But it'll keep you inspired. Keep your brain. There's actually science behind this, by the way, that you need to keep our brains active and keeps that, use it or lose it, basically. Don't stop using it. Don't stop using it.
If there is one action you take from today's conversation, it is go do something that is outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. Whether that is taking a course, applying for a job, quitting your job, trying a new outdoor adventure. You all know I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. Jenna and I encourage you to go do something this week that makes you uncomfortable and see what comes of it.
Love it.
There you go. There you have it. Jenna and Angie take over the world as you go get out of your comfort zone. Jenna, thank you so much for being on the show. You have a great story. And again, you're right. We learn through stories. And I think that you've broken down some barriers that are going to inspire some of our listeners and some of the women out there to say, okay, I don't have to be in this kind of like hamster wheel, unsatisfying place. I can take a step towards some greater satisfaction. That's what we're all about. So I'm so grateful that you were here today. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for being part of the No More Mondays movement.
Thanks for having me. It was an absolute honor and a pleasure.
And again, Jenna's got all kinds of stuff happening that you need to tune into. So head on over to nomoremondays.info. We'll link everything there so you can check out the Roku channel, the podcast, the book, the platform. We definitely want to get you in there. And it's just always amazing to hear from people who are navigating career crossroads and not only helping themselves, but helping others find success in purpose in the world. And so I hope all of you took some notes, and I hope you will all go do something this week that challenges you and makes you uncomfortable. So if that is leaving a rating for this podcast, then hey, you should do that too, because we would love for you to subscribe to No More Mondays. Give us a 5-star rating because Jenna and I are taking over the world. And it's also a huge help to people like us who are podcasters and want to inspire people with these stories. If you want to leave us comments, feedback, drop a guest suggestion, or again, pick up all the show notes and links and places to find Jenna, visit us online at nomoremondays.info. And I will see you again next week for another edition of the No More Mondays podcast. Thanks for joining us for another episode of No More Mondays. Tune in next week as we bring you more insights and actions to help you improve your professional life and find career satisfaction. Don't forget, visit us online at nomoremondays.info for all the details, show notes, and recommendations from this episode. No More Mondays, we drop new episodes every Wednesday. No More Mondays is brought to you by Career Benders, Inc. in partnership with executive producer Jane Durkee. For more information about career coaching, resume writing, personal branding, recruiting, and entrepreneurship coaching services, visit our website at careerbenders.com.